Hi, I'm Tracy Sofra and welcome to the Women of Wealth podcast, dedicated to helping women achieve financial independence and thrive in every area of her life. Today, I want to talk about superannuation. Love it or loathe it, let's dive deep into super and let's just demystify and, let's just talk about all the components of super that you need to be aware of and that you're more comfortable with the whole concept of superannuation. And it's not something that is demonized for you anymore. I know there's a lot of uncertainty around it. I know that a lot of you don't understand it. And I know a lot of you put it to the side and maybe you get your statements and you think, oh, not this again, God, and you chuck it on the pile and never to be looked at again. But let me just, before I jump into the main points I want to discuss, let me just say this. Superannuation in Australia is a given. What does that mean? If you are employed and on wages, your employer must pay at this point in time 11.5% of your gross income. That is before tax of your gross income. That is going to 12% if things don't change by the 1st of July this year. And this is recorded in 2025. And so if you consider that alone, that is a massive investment over a long period of time. So if we look at the benefits and, the great benefits of super, you are receiving 11.5, nearly 12% of your gross income. It is by its very nature a long-term investment. What does that mean? It's preserved. Preserved means that there is a condition that you need to meet a condition of release to be able to access your super. Now, 3 conditions of release: you reach preservation age, which generally speaking for most people born after the 1st of July 1964, it's age 60, or the other condition of release is death or disablement, and the third one is financial hardship. I've never gone through financial hardship with anyone over the last 30 odd years. Obviously, preservation age, I've gone through that with clients where they've retired, and unfortunately on the death benefit nomination, as I've also worked through that. But by its very nature, because you can't touch it, because you can't access it, it is a long-term investment. As long as you work to age 60 or whatever you work to, you will continue to receive that cap of 12% from your employer. And you're also able to contribute to your super and claim a tax deduction for it. That is the concessional contributions that you can put in yourself, either through salary sacrifice or after tax contributions. The difference is that the tax benefit, it's just the timing of the tax benefit. If you salary sacrifice, you're getting the tax benefit at each payday because you're taxed less by your employer. Or if you don't do it that way and you do it after you get paid by your employer and you pay into your super fund once a month yourself, you've just got to make sure that you claim those contributions in your income tax return when you go to lodge at tax time, and you will get the tax benefit of those contributions at tax time. Remembering this, concessional contributions at the moment are capped at $30,000 per annum, and that is inclusive of your super guarantee from your employer that you're receiving. So there's a quick recap on super. So needless to say, take it seriously. It is one, if not most people's largest asset that they will build over their lifetime. So take it seriously. I'm going to jump into the probably the 4 main factors you need to consider when you're looking at your super and in taking it seriously and treating it like an investment. People get all excited about rental properties and share portfolios, and so do I. I love them, yes, but super is not to be sneezed at. The other great benefit about superannuation is that it is the lowest taxed environment. What does that mean? Your contributions, your concessional contributions, which is the super guarantee from your employer, and either your salary sacrifice or after-tax personal contributions, when they go into super, they're taxed at 15 cents in the dollar. Anything in super is taxed at a flat rate of 15 cents, yeah? Personal income tax, the lowest marginal rate is 19 cents in the dollar at the moment, plus Medicare of 2%, it's really 21. So super is the lowest taxed environment at 15%. That is another great benefit of why contributing to super and growing your super is another great way to build wealth over the long term. But let's jump into the 4 main categories that I want to talk about in this podcast when it comes to superannuation. What you really need to be doing is grabbing your financial statement annually. Every super fund will issue you with an annual statement of your fund, and it will generally be a financial year. So 1st of July to 30 June of whichever particular year that you're talking about. Everything I'm about to talk about in this podcast, these next 4 points, will be in that statement. Grab your trusty highlighter. I love my highlighter. I prefer the yellow one. The yellow one is really, really nice and easy to look at. Grab your trusty highlighter and first and foremost, highlight the date, because everything you're looking at is in context of the date, because investments, balances, fees, everything that's in that statement is in context of the date that it's reporting, and everything moves as the dates move. So understand that. That's a really good concept to understand. Highlight the date, highlight the opening balance and the closing balance on your super statement. You should have a summary of the transactions, which will be 1st of July. You had 150,000 and during the course of that financial year, these contributions went in. These are the investment returns that your super fund made or the losses it made, depending on how it's invested. This is the contributions tax, so the 15% tax on any contributions received. This is the insurance that came out of it. These are the fees and charges that came out of it, and here is the closing balance. So you will get that sort of a summary. You will also see how your super is invested. You will see the asset allocation. Where is my money invested? Is it property? Is it shares? Is it fixed interest? Is it cash? And what percentage is in there? That's your asset allocation. That should be aligned with your risk profile, which is your tolerance to risk. Are you conservative? Are you balanced? Are you aggressive? So if you're a balanced investor, typically you will have anywhere between 60 to 70% in property and shares and 30 to 40% in fixed interest and cash. Have a look at your asset allocation and is it aligned correctly? The investment returns you receive on your super will be directly correlated to your asset allocation, which is then directly correlated to your risk profile. So based on your risk profile is how your asset allocation will be, and based on the asset allocation, your returns will reflect that. So if you're a balanced investor, you should have had anywhere between 30 to 35% in international shares in the last 12 months. And if you did have that sort of exposure to that asset class, you would have, by now, probably received a 12% return, say from March last year to March this year. These are averages. But see the correlation, see how I'm connecting the risk profile to the asset allocation, which is where is my money invested based on my risk profile, and then the returns you received, which is based on how your money's invested. So if you're a conservative investor, you're never going to get 10, 12% return because it's not capable of doing that because you're not invested in the assets that will produce that sort of return for you. So quick bit of highlighting there for you when you've got the statement and what you're looking for. The other thing you want to be looking for is the beneficiary nomination. Is there one? So if anything happens to you, how does it get paid out? Who does it get paid out to? The insurances, have you got any insurance in there? Life, TPD, income protection, and the fees and charges. What are the fees and charges that are being charged and are they exorbitant? So let me jump in. The investment strategy is the thing you want to be looking at. And again, your investment strategy is how is my super monies invested? Yeah? Your super money should be invested according to your risk profile. So again, whatever your risk profile is, will be how your monies are invested. And then what investment managers or what investment types has been selected for me in my particular super fund. Am I in ETFs? Am I in managed funds? Am I in direct shares? Or am I in a multi-mix? A multi-mix is generally a lower cost option where you're invested across all of those things, but it's bundled up into what's called a multi-mix type portfolio. Depending on how your investments are structured will then depend on the fees and charges. So if I can connect the investment strategy with the fees and charges, the fees and charges are made up across 2 to 3 different levels. The first fee will be the fee of the platform provider. So if you're with Australian Super is going to have a fee to provide this product to you. Underlying underneath that, so they will have a fee, and then the investment manager. So if you have your investments split across a multitude of different managers, they're also going to have their fees. If that's too exorbitant for you, you want to come back to, say, a multi-manager fund, or you want to come back to maybe an index fund. An index fund is a fund that follows the index, as it says, the Australian Stock Exchange index, and they are much more lower cost. So if you want to reduce your fees, that's one way of reducing the fees. So you need to be mindful of the different fees that you're being charged. There'll be the investment manager's fee and there'll be the platform fee. And you need to have a look at both of those to make your decision before you sort of crack the wobblies and say, the fees are too high, I'm out of here. You may be able to adjust those fees based on how your super is invested. If your platform fee is really, really high, you may need to consider an alternative superannuation fund. But remembering this, the minute you roll over out of that fund 100%, if you've got any benefits such as insurances in there, they will be lost. So be very cautious before you pull the pin and roll over to another fund. You need to do your homework, yeah? One of the best places I sort of talk about when it comes to comparing, finder.com.au seems to be quite a good website where you can compare a multitude of things, and superannuation is also one of them. So that is your investment strategy. The second thing I want to talk about is insurances. You are able to have life and TPD. TPD is total and permanent disablement, and also income protection inside your super. So if you have these insurances inside your super, you need to be looking at the levels required and whether you require it at all. So you'll need to do an analysis as to what levels of insurance you require and double check whether you're overinsured or underinsured. Now, through our programs, we have worksheets and workbooks where you can actually do the calculations and work out whether you actually need that insurance or not. And insurance, unless required, can really eat away at the growth of your super fund. So be mindful that this is something you really want to be all over. Life and TPD is if you had it outside of super, is not tax deductible to you and eats away at your personal cash flow. Life and TPD inside super is tax deductible to your super fund. And yes, it reduces your super, but at least it doesn't reduce your ongoing cash flow on a weekly or fortnightly or monthly basis, depending on how you're getting paid. So be mindful of checking the levels required and what you actually have at the moment. Income protection is what we call otherwise deductible. It's deductible in your own name to reduce your personal income tax. But again, you've got to pay for it physically out of your own pocket, but it is tax deductible. The premiums are tax deductible to you. So you can have it outside of super. If you can't afford to have it outside of super, that would be the time to have it inside of super. It's better to be covered than not covered, even if you can't, if you can't afford it from a personal cash flow point of view, chuck it inside super and it's deductible through super as well. So making sure that you're aware of the levels, what you have, and that it's not eroding all of the contributions that are coming in. I've seen clients where, say, $8,000 for the whole year is coming in terms of contributions, and the insurances are costing them $7,000. That's a recipe for disaster. That's something you really, really need to be mindful of and reviewing and having a look at. The third thing is beneficiary nominations. Okay, so let me explain this. Superannuation is what's called a non-estate asset. It doesn't have to go through your will, but it can. When is it best not to send it to your will? So the nominations you can make is to your financial beneficiaries. Now, husband and wife or partnered spouses, they're all the same thing. In the eyes of the tax law, if you are a financial dependent of each other, you will receive it tax-free. But if you aren't partnered and you are on your own and you've got adult kids, it's probably best to nominate legal personal representative, which means that it goes to your will. When it goes to your will, the will then deals with the taxation of those funds. and then it distributes accordingly to the beneficiaries. If you direct it to non-dependent adult kids, it will be paid to them directly. However, it can impact their personal income tax returns because they will be fully taxable on it. But again, it depends on the components of the super that's being paid out. Now, this is where it gets a little bit technical, which I don't want to overwhelm you with, but there are components in your super fund that are taxed, that are tax-free, and that are taxable. So the tax-free component will not impact them. The untaxed component will impact them, and the taxable component will impact them as well. Without getting too bogged down in that, for adult kids that are non-dependents, to not impact their personal income tax returns, it's probably best to nominate your legal personal representative. But making sure that you've nominated either a tax dependent or directly to your will, simply because, and making sure it's a binding nomination. There's two types. There's binding and non-binding. Binding means it's binding on the trustee to follow those instructions. If it's non-binding, you can get someone coming in and contesting that and potentially getting a piece of the pie. So binding nomination is always a much better choice than a non-binding one. Fees, I've spoken about, making sure that the fees are not eroding away at your superannuation contributions going in, and also your super. Like, what goes in is the contributions, obviously, but also what goes in is the investment returns, because your super is invested. It is an investment that you're adding to, your employer's adding to, your insurances come out, some fees and charges come out, but then it's invested and it's making money, and it's making money based on the way it's invested, and the way it's invested is based on your risk profile. Remember that. And so it's growing at that pace. So understand that it is an evolving and a growing asset, and making sure that at certain times you can contribute to it, which can help it grow over time. One of the other tips that I want to give you is, because I've seen this happen with quite a number of clients over the years, you may see on your payslip the amount, the super guarantee that's being paid for you, but there's a big difference between the payslip and the actual transaction listing on your super statement. Has it actually been paid? Check that your contributions have physically been paid across to your super fund. Check the detailed transactions and do a reconciliation from your payslip to the detailed transactions of your super. Make sure it's being paid. I had a client quite a number of years ago that was not paid something like about $12,000 over a 3-year period. That is a lot of money. And also the cost benefit of the loss on the growth of that money over that period of time. So do yourself a favour, do the reconciliation, get a printout of your pay slips, get the printout of your transaction statement from your super fund, and cross-match them and make sure that the contributions have been there. Okay, so that's a bit of a wrap up. I'm hoping that has given you a little bit more oomph in wanting to have a look at your super statement, and in wanting to see how it's progressing, and also wanting to build wealth through super. It is incredibly powerful. It is one of the investments that you will have throughout your lifetime whilst you're working. So don't underestimate it. Don't ignore it. Take it seriously, because you will thank yourself when you come to retire one day. Okay, if this is something you would like to further explore, if this is something that you would like to learn more about and learn more in detail about what your risk profile is, what asset allocation means, being able to drill down into your fees, being able to understand the levels of insurance and doing all of these things, if that's something you want to explore and learn and empower yourself with, speak to one of our strategists, and you can explore that by booking a call with one of them. Simply go to wowwomen.com.au and follow the links to our programs. Best of all, the call is free. And if you found today's podcast particularly helpful, please share it with your friends, leave us a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, take control of your wealth and your future.